This is your boy Tensa, and you'll find us on Anchor.fm. We have our newest TikTok channel at the official Otaku Crew, and we're also available on YouTube as the official Otaku Crew. That being said, today we have two guests with me. We have Leifon. How are you doing, Leifon?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm not really a guest, but then again, people hear my voice, and at this point, they can just call me a guest since I don't appear on some episodes. But I'm good, man. How about you?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty fine. I'm pretty fine, my man.
Look at you
Um, you
hosting.
know,
Look at you, big boy.
it was going to happen, and on top of that, with something that I'm very, very interested in today,
True.
we also do have Rec Endeavor. Hey, Rec, how are you doing?
How are you doing, Tensa? I'm doing very well. Today we're going to be talking about anime, and I'm interested in hear what topic we'll be discussing.
I'm glad that you've mentioned that, because today we are going to talk about anime and food. More specifically about cooking anime and basically characters that cooks in anime.
Ooh, sounds like the
Yes.
spicy episode today.
Spicy it is. Spicy it is. That being said, it's not exactly a free for all, but it's definitely going to be a discussion about what who makes a better cook in the anime industry. Like in which character of the anime industry, because there's a lot of cooking animes. For example, there are Yakitate Japan. There is Fighting Foodons. There is even stuff that are more like recent, like Shokugeki no Soma, Today's Menu for the Emiya family, and others. Essentially, we're going to discuss the entire umbrella of cooking, and also what makes you think that certain, which characters that you think that would basically be a functional cook, like the best functional cook, I guess.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Oh yes, yes. Because in cooking animes we saw everything. We saw winning tournaments by making bread, like we saw more slice of life cooking, and it works. And sometimes you see so much ridiculous cooking that the human hands cannot replicate.
But on that, you see it all, but it just works somehow. It just works.
It does. That's what makes it, because in those universe, when they do it in such a way that it works out in the end, and it's really impressive. What tends to be sometimes slightly depressing is some of the cooking cannot be replicated in real life, but otherwise the visual aesthetic is really great, and sometimes you can kind of really imagine the taste.
It makes you hungry.
I know, right? That being said, Leifon, who would you think, or I would say, which anime would you think would be your top pick for cooking anime, I guess?
Simple, man. The Gordon Ramsay cooking anime. Simple. Hands down, the best cooking anime.
I'm listening.
Well, we're waiting.
I'm kidding. There's no such thing. But I imagine some studios can do it. Come on, Studio Bones or JC Staff. You guys can pick up this project. It wouldn't be too hard to replicate. Originally, I was going to go with Yakitate Japan because, there's nothing wrong with a boy with warm hands making that bread. But I decided to maybe go for something a little, not recent, but I find it touches on the culinary industry quite heavily, and that was Silver Spoon. Has anyone heard of it?
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
Basically,
Cool.
Guy finishes high school, and his dad thinks he's not going to do anything with his life. He's going to drop out of university like his older brother. So my boy does the smart thing. He applies to a school that's he thinks it's going to be easy. He applies to a school where you learn how to be a farmer or the skills to to work in the industry of agriculture. And little does he know, he prepared months in advance for all the quizzes, the textbooks. He read it all, highlighted it, and they're like, "Oh, we're not going to even use this manual." He's like, "What?" So mentally, he's already drained, and then physically, he learns like what farmers do on a basis. And there's not just limited to farmers. There's like horse breeders. That was one arc. They examine the business aspect, the scientifical aspects as well, because quite a bit of science goes behind agriculture. And he sees beforehand how, for example, how eggs come out of the chicken. He sees where exactly it comes from, and then when he eats on his rice, because eggs over rice and some soy sauce is apparently how it's done, is the best thing he's ever eaten. It's like, whoa. And then, of course, he sees the darker aspects of it. He gets so close to a pig that he has to butcher it to make bacon out of it, and he does it himself. Talk about friendship, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That one must hurt.
Yeah, I'm going to turn my friend into bacon. Of course it hurts. But it's very slice of life and relatable to a degree for people who work in the industry. And I'm curious to see, like, if someone actually watched Silver Spoon, they would say, "Oh, yeah, that's how it's done." And of course, he puts on muscle, of course, because gotta be ripped to be a farmer.
I'm buff. Check out my pecs, little man.
Well, it's both a slice of life and a slice of bacon.
Well played.
And okay, so definitely I'm adding that to my list for sure, because that's like it's kind of like, oh, it just shows the real life of a farmer, really. And I'm like, oh, this seems really good and depressing at the same time.
Pretty short and sweet, if I'm honest. I think 12 episodes, and it doesn't need a season 2. It's well off on its own. And the best part is, actually, no, I can't spoil. I will not say anything. I'd say if you like food, watch it. Just enjoy it.
That's what I was going to say, something like that, because it actually makes sense. Because and I'm pretty sure that in a sense, because it's a slice of life, and the fact that it shows agriculture things, it seems pretty educational in a sense.
Oh, for sure, man.
That's pretty interesting. I never thought of that coming from you, really.
I thought I'd go with something mainstream too, but I'm like, I'm not the mainstream type.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you say, Schizo.
Fair enough. I mean, even my ideas are kind of like, they're kind of known, and that's also why I end up going for something a little silly. But I'll talk about that when it's gonna be my turn.
All right.
How about you, Rek?
Well, if I had to go for anime cooks, the one character I've stuck with for a long time would always be Sanji from the series One Piece.
Ooh, the French cook.
Yes.
Sanji's French?
It's if you've listened to every of his technique, they're all in French. So he's not actually French, mind you.
Not actually French. His style of cooking is French.
Yes,
okay, gotcha.
Yes, that's what I meant. And that's kind of it's kind of cool too, because even though that the series One Piece does delve into Sanji as a fighter, if you pay attention and you listen to all of his techniques, while it's a bit of gratuitous French inside it, but like a lot of them could have been just recipes that becomes attacks. Given that his entire fighting style is taught to him by Cook.
Yes, the one-legged cook that taught him from scratch.
And look where he is now. I still can't wait for him to open a restaurant.
I'd go.
First, he's got to find the all blue.
I know, it's a long quest, but this man should open a restaurant.
Can we be honest though, guys? Like, anytime we see a chef from an anime like making food, we want them low key to make their own restaurant so we could go there. Like, come on.
Oh yes. I mean, it's like how I tend to talk about Emiya all the time. Like this guy should open a restaurant. Look at what he's doing. The same way that I'm like, Soma, when will you open that restaurant? Which, he finally did in the epilogue, but that's another thing on its own. And yes, and I can see why Sanji would be a good pick. For my case, oh boy, it's going to be a fun ride. Guys, ever heard of The Way of the House Husband?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Good. Because even though that this series is really more of a slice of life than anything else, the main character, the immortal Tatsu Kuroda, has a knack of making realistic meals with the cooking level of Shokugeki no Soma, which I found like funny and ridiculous at the same time. In basically like the first 5 episodes, you see him making croquettes, making a dessert. Like there's a literal cooking battle with versus a crepe and just posting it on Instagram. And there's even like an entire episode of Chinese cooking. So I thought that was interesting. That a typical man who retired from the Yakuza becomes a dedicated house husband to the point of his cooking is scaringly effective, and yet to all of the characters that came across it, very, very delicious. Just not to the point of, oh, look, I made this Technicolor lasagna.
Which will blow your clothes off. Nope.
Yeah. It's nothing as ridiculous as that. But the effects are kind of still there when you see characters eat it. Which I thought that was an interesting thing to delve to. Especially given that The Way of the House Husband, although that it might be a little mainstream-like, I thought it was interesting because while the focus was not on that, the very little scenes you get on that really pays off.
I could say the same for another series. Has anyone here heard of The Blue Exorcist?
Ooh.
Depends. I only heard of it up until 13 episodes. Anything afterwards, I never heard of because I have to repress the memory of what they try to do at the end of season 1.
Well, the good news is the style of cooking that you get to see from the series is within that 13 episodes. I believe it's episode 6, where not only is the main character, well, spoilers for anyone, the main character is son of Satan, and he has a talent for cooking. And he gets all these compliments from his peers, and even his brother say that he's a really good cook. We even see him have a cook contest with a stove spirit, which is also a really interesting scene. And somehow a good friendship there was born.
This reminds me of chapter 2 and episode 2 of The Way of the House Husband, because the desert contest is literally a cook-off as well. So that is actually very interesting that in that typical shonen like that with heavy teams of demons and angels manage to take the time off to, hey, let's cook, guys.
Yeah, you never know. Weird stuff has happened before in anime.
Oh, yes.
It'll happen again.
Oh, always. And to be fair, there's also like a lot of shows that sometimes you see a bit of cooking, but it's like it's kind of underplayed.
7 Deadly Sins.
Agreed.
Because we know how Ban is a good cook.
Best cook, yeah.
Yep.
Obviously, I was also about to point out Shiro Emiya from Fate Stay Night. For those who read the visual novels, you will see details into his cooking disciplines. Obviously, he does Japanese cuisine, but he learns other cuisines along the way. And now he has his own show called Today's Menu for the Emiya family, so that's kind of cool.
I'm sorry. I just pictured that.
You just pictured that now. Okay.
It's just the way you said it. It's just like, oh, I can just sort of imagine sitting down in a restaurant, maybe like two people seat, just sit, and there comes Emiya, and he just says "welcome." It's like,
Yes, that was my entire goal of that sentence, by the way.
okay.
So definitely, I'm very glad that he has his own cooking show because we did mention about how there is Gordon Ramsay of anime, for example, but for sure, like there's a lot of examples that could be thrown out there for sure.
It's funny, Tensa, you say that because I just want to insert this. I saw a meme, I think it was on Twitter, where Gordon Ramsay and Shiro Emiya are actually cooking together, and Gordon's like, well done, Emiya-kun," and he's like, "Thank you, Gordon-san."
Oh yes, I think I've brought that meme once too.
That was wholesome stuff right there.
That's a great moment.
Oh yeah, that is a great moment. It's not to mention that his future self, Archer, technically has more than one lifetime's experience worth of cooking. So if that makes any sense,
It does.
we kind of see where this is going.
That's true. I see it.
Obviously, we do have a gacha game called Fate Grand Order where things kind of go a little bit too far because we literally also have an actual servant that is basically Gordon Ramsay. Yes, Benyenma. She's basically the singular best cook in the entire franchise, if we really will go there. And I thought that was interesting that when she was released, there was a lot of Gordon Ramsay memes, and sometimes it's really just Gordon Ramsay but dressed up as Benyenma making the idiot sandwich jokes. Because the character Benyenma not only shares his cooking skills, but also shares his temperament a bit. So when someone is just terrible, she will criticize you exactly like Gordon.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Where's the lamb sauce?
Yes. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
All the bad things she must have learned from him.
Yes. Obviously, there's also other shows that are sometimes not really cooking based, but sometimes you'll have like a reference to cooking every now and then.
Like an aspect of it, right?
Yes, like in Samurai Champloo. Like I know that's not a cooking show by any means, but there is a specific episode that talks to you about how to cook an eel, and you actually see the process slowly because the people that were talking about it, they were kind of working in an eel shop essentially. But the point is that they show sometimes certain aspects, and this one was grilling fish, how to remove the bones, and the process. It's kind of long because you have to prepare the fish perfectly essentially. And I thought that was kind of interesting in a series where the entire thing is basically two Ronins running away from the law. Not so different from Blue Exorcist. They just took the time to have, this is how you cook an eel. That being said, ever heard of Cooking Papa, guys?
That sounds like a restaurant I would go to, but no.
Cooking Papa is an old manga in the 80s, actually.
You'd know, you're old anyways.
Damn! Hush you! But definitely, it was one of like the first cooking mangas that we had in Japan. I wouldn't say the first, but one of the earliest ones, definitely. And what was interesting is if you take a look at it, in the end of each and every chapters, there's an actual recipe, so you can do it too.
Oh.
And I thought that was fun because basically the synopsis it's basically the same as The Way of the House Husband, really. The difference is that the man is not really a house husband. In fact, he's an office worker and a cook. And basically everyone works and, has a family, a fulfilling family. Point is that, because his wife doesn't know how to boil water properly, it's up to the husband to do everything. And he tends to make good meals, whether it's a snack on the go, whether it's really a meal, whether it's a quick ice cream snack from scratch. He does it all. In fact, I've learned how to make the egg toast out of that manga.
Wait, you mean like the toast with the egg in the middle?
Yes.
Oh, that stuff's good, man.
It is great. It is great. It's and for those who like cooking, I definitely recommend this manga Cooking Papa, because that's kind of like where, like, that's where the fun begins, I guess. Obviously, if you just want the aesthetic of cooking and not really cooking, Food Wars is the show for you.
This is. I like that you say that, Tensa, because there was something I noticed stylistically with cooking anime as an overall type of genre. Like, we've examined quite a few genres so far in our podcast episodes, but the thing is, what I've noticed with all the cooking animes that I've seen, not many, but I've seen a fair amount, is that the way they approach it is just very different from a lot of the staple genres. For example, the slice of life anime genre we covered episode 6, or
Yes.
the isekai genre we covered in episode 4. You get a lot of cooking animes that adapt those qualities, but they don't abuse it in a lot of other cooking shows. I'll give like an example. For the isekai was Restaurant to Another World. It has season 1 and 2. It was greatly executed, and you don't see other cooking animes which are like that.
Yes, because the point is that I think that they're trying to not make it too, how can I say it? Obviously, it's hard to make another one like that without really saying that you're actually without saying that you're actually copying from that guy. So it's kind of hard. And if you're making a cooking anime, they're probably being careful, because one, you have to think about the recipes that you're doing, and also the as you said, the genre. Like you mentioned that the Restaurant from Another World, and that seems kind of good.
Yeah.
In the same way, we could have talked about Dungeon Meshi and having fantasy meat into the weirdest things to eat. Furthermore, you have again, Food Wars, or fighting foodons for the shonen shows, where somehow all of our cooks are level 99, and either that they are amazingly technicolor and like the food is less food and more visual art, or that the food can literally beat the crap out of it.
There's only one place where we find a good balance of both, and that's Miyazaki food. Like, you see that food, man, in all of his movies, you're like, I want that. It could beat me up, but I'll love it.
Oh yes, I think I've seen every food in Miyazaki, and in fact, I think I have a compilation video somewhere. Because the way that they show it is so detailed, so good, and you know that it's not even the focus.
Exactly.
But the way that they show it is so delicious that you can't help but say, I want to eat this.
Oh, Howell, just come to my house and make me some bacon and eggs.
Yes, you know it, boy. You know it, boy. That being said, I would actually ask, what would you like to see in the future of cooking anime? Because that's not something that I've covered, I believe.
No.
If I could say what, then one thing I definitely want to see in cooking animes, especially ones where the main story is cooking, is a moral sort of compass, or like what's a good term for it? To have a life-serving reason for it. Like, if I had to give Soma from the Food Wars anime, his reason was to become a better cook to beat his dad. And
yes.
Or if I had to say for Sanji, he learned the value of cooking and what it means to be a chef.
Yes.
Or, yeah, to be able to imply that there's more than just, I just really like cooking. The reason more like, there is a strong purpose for why I cook.
Oh, I see. I see where you're getting at. So you don't want it to be like fighting foodons when it's basically Pokemon with food, or you don't want it to be like like just a hobby, like let's say Shiro Emiya, or even Tatsu from The Way of the House Husband. You really want someone with conviction that will drive the idea of cooking home, essentially.
Exactly. It's that way. It has more like a purpose to it, and not like a I just cook because I cook. I can cook.
Here I was about to say that Dungeon Meshi might be something that interests you, but in this case, Dungeon Meshi is not exactly I cook for the sake of cooking or I cook for reason. It's more of I cook to see if I can eat this. So maybe that was a bad idea in overall. I can see the idea of having, how can I call it? I'll just call it serious cooking anime at this point.
Hardcore.
Yeah, it's like hardcore cooking anime, like like our cooking shows like Sweet Genius and other stuff like that. And to have actual, yeah, this is my life goal, man. I can see that spring up in the future. I mean, as I said, Food Wars seem pretty popular, and I don't think that that'll be the end of it. In the same way that that other cooking shows, including the ones that I've mentioned earlier, were already fairly popular. All they probably need to do is to definitely just focus on that one show. But I will tell you that the difficulty with that may be coming with some unique recipes. Because sometimes you want to kind of surprise people. In the same way that sometimes hotel chefs, sometimes they don't have anything, or like in every cook-offs, essentially, they have ingredients. They know they can make something that everybody knows, and yeah, that's, or they can just surprise us with something unique. And I think that a lot of it will be depending on if an entire cooking crew kind of bands together to make this big manga. That would be fun.
Oh, absolutely.
And what do you think, Leifon?
It's funny, the moment you guys said a serious cooking anime, I just imagined a bunch of very, very muscular people cooking and cracking walnuts between their pecs for some reason.
Yes, it's like imagine like Armstrong, but in a barbecue cook-off.
Basically, but to build off of that, actually, there's maybe two things for cooking anime that I would want and wouldn't. I wouldn't want cooking anime to ever be saturated with the entire topics of, oh, he's the best chef, we gotta start a harem around it. Oh my god, I gotta be the best chef so the demon lord can't take over the world. I don't want any of that ever to touch cooking anime, and I hope it never does.
No.
You know why.
Yeah, basically, you don't want the harem / isekai genre to infect it, and I definitely understand why.
We cover this heavily, but so we won't go into too much detail here. But yeah, that's the one thing I don't want. But one thing I would want, just to build off of Rex's idea, is that an anime that does focus on, the hyper focus is on cooking anime, and there's a determination behind it. But I would be very interested to see one that is focused on the cooking industry, like how you go from cooking school and how you make it in that industry, the successes and the failures you will experience, sort of like the anime Bakuman that I discussed, that how two guys try and make a manga which becomes an anime. I want to see something similar like that. I know a lot of people would say Shokugeki no Soma is like that, but I'm like, it's a cooking school though, and it's a little pretty unrealistic. Like, my clothes are not gonna burst off if I eat this walnut.
Yeah, to be fair, I will tell you that it's really because Shokugeki no Soma is less of a cooking anime and it's more of a shonen, and that's probably why. Like, definitely, I would like if it had more seinen elements into it, like, it would be more realistic, obviously, but it's not what it was, and it's still interesting, but. The idea of a realistic cooking, like how do you get to cooking school? How do you get there? Is actually an interesting idea. So basically, I would be waiting for a seinen that does that. Hilariously, it actually combines the idea of a guy's determination to become a chef. Like, it's not gonna be something like, obviously, it's not gonna be something like the best chef ever, but it's going to be something very interesting. It's gonna be like, at least not as insane as the cook who went back in time to serve Nobunaga, which that one was fun.
Wait, what? There's an actual show called that?
And there's a manga that I've read. I kind of forgot the name, and the cook, like it's a cook from the future, or would I say like from year 2013? And for some reason, he got thrown back into the Sengoku period, and he's Nobunaga's personal cook.
That didn't happen to me in 2013, but okay.
No, I meant the synopsis of that manga, but okay. It's still interesting because in this case, it's not just cooking; it's also traditional old style cooking with a bit of creativity in it. So it's and I think that the manga is actually called Nobunaga's Cook. But the point of that series was basically, you go foraging and you do the old stuff, and yet you, with the expertise of a cook and with basically the elements of a series called Townsend. If ever you've seen the YouTube John Townsend, that's a guy that basically does traditional cooking from the 1700s. It would be very akin to that. Because, Nobunaga is in the 1500s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's whatever you can find in that era. And obviously it's more of a survival thing, I guess, than it was more of a survival thing than a show where it's like cooking is my life. It is centered on cooking, though.
Imagine that, an anime where you have the worst cook of his generation somehow go back in time, and he goes back to an era where he's now the best chef in the world because he knows all these techniques.
I mean, it's at least it's not like that, but definitely if we were to imagine that kind of show, it would be great because it's this kind of thing where but the problem, it becomes he knows all of these techniques, but he went back in time. Now he's the inventor of all of these techniques at once.
I think we've seen something like that before.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've did, and that's not like, oh dear.
Maybe not in cooking, but like the idea where
that the original idea was not yours, but because you're turning back in time and you're using that idea, it becomes yours because no one else used it before. Yes,
exactly.
Like that's what, like, it's basically that's why I mentioned the chef of Nobunaga, because the guy does Japanese style cooking, Ming Chinese style cooking, and Portuguese style cooking. 400 years ago, Japanese would not actually have Portuguese cooking in the first place. So I can see where this is going.
Well,
we're on the same page.
Yes, we are.
With all that being said, like at the beginning, like how we discussed some of the food animes we've seen, we gave a small synopsis here and there, and then how we've delved even further into the topic of anime genres that food anime has explored. But Tensa, there's still the question that lingers, like, who would you say would make a good chef? What do you think? What do you think, Tensa? Who would make a good chef?
I have a lot of answers on that one because I see a lot of people that would be good chefs.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the ones that you've mentioned would have made great chef, and Rex's answer would definitely make a great chef. Obviously, I chose Tatsu Kuroda from The Way of the House Husband because the fact of the matter is that he's able to make restaurant quality food in his own home. And I think that was something to be respected. Although that I like Shiro Emiya as well, and I do think that Shiro Emiya would be probably the best cook in my book, I'm also hesitant on putting him on a pedestal on the premise that, one, there's two Shiros, so I gotta be careful with that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you live more than a single lifetime, it's at this point, it's kind of cheating. Like, when I say it's kind of cheating, I mean, this guy has literally enough time to learn all of the cookings in the world if he wanted to. And so I'm like, this is not fair.
He's too broken.
Basically, it's not even a fair game anymore. This is the main reason I was going for Tatsu, because it was more of a let's go see the everyday house husbandly things, and then you see him cook like a madman, and everything is real. Everything is things that you can do while that the characters are tasting his food. Yes, it's great, and you see them beam in light, but again, not to the point of exaggerations where people explode, people get powers up, or even the clothing explosion. It's just really, you can say that it's kind of like the wholesome part of that show. So yeah, I would definitely say that Tatsu, the immortal Tatsu, would be a great cook.
Hey Tensa, guess what?
What?
Unlimited pan works.
You know that we already have the unlimited spatula works as a meme, right?
I did not.
Yeah, we've already been there. I'm sorry, man. And if you played Fate Grand Order, there is a specific card from an event in which I have in one of my games, and you basically see Emiya and a bunch of servants doing cook-off, and I think that like he had like the KFC costume on it too.
What about you, Rek?
Be honest, I don't really know. I would have to look into it more to get more of a basic idea.
All right, that's fair. There's a wide variety to choose from. It's like the most difficult question in life. What's your top 5 anime? It's like, oh, I never know. Same thing for this. It's hard to find a character that you find would be what's the word, worthy of being the one.
Yeah, and it's also because cooking is not a straight line either.
Yeah, no, there's always the technique.
It's also the style of cooking that all differs. Like when I mention Tatsu from the Way of the House Husband or Emiya, for example, they specialize in Japanese cooking. Like that's their specialty.
Yeah, but how I see it is like, I mean, I gave my suggestion with Sanji. We've also discussed other animes where I've seen them and they've showed true passion when it comes to cooking. So I guess what I mean by what I said was, like, it's hard to pick which one would be considered the worthiest, because they've all proven that they're all capable to forward themselves in the cooking industry, and they can go far beyond. Hell, if I could see cooking battles between each one of them, then that would be fantastic to see. I already saw an AMV recently of a it's a 3-minute video of basically all cooking scenes in anime, and it's just like, I think the video is like a anime cook-off or something, I forget, but it was just great to see like the food war setting, and then you just see like even like Bond cooking on his station, or you have Gon and Killua cooking at their station, or you have or Theo from Fruit Basket, his little cooking with the rice ball. Like, you just have like multiple different things, and I found that was really cool. But back to what you were saying, I can't really pick. That's my only issue.
And in my case, the problem is that while I can pick, it's just that there's too many to pick. Like, because a lot of them are either accomplished chefs already, which is fine, and then there are people that are not exactly chefs in the sense of a professional chef. And yet they are chef level when you see them cook. So that's what blurs the line a lot. It's that even if I had one for one that are like by profession and one by hobby, it's really hard to take a good choice. Well, a good choice, because there's just so many of them. There's just so many that are so good. And I don't treat one of them as one better than the other, necessarily. Rather, I just find them really fun and interesting in general.
Tensa, I never thought I would say this in my entire life to you from the longest time I've known you. I have to disagree. There's only one above all of them, and I will say it is the old man who runs Ichiraku Ramen.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Since day one.
Oh, no!
He's been there since day one, from morning till night. Literally, if you look at the Naruto episodes, sometimes in the morning, afternoon, evening, the man is cooking non-stop.
Look, we can talk about Assassination Classroom, where there's an assassin that shoves a gun into a ramen.
Oh, that's scene.
But
That's true.
but okay. I can see Ichiraku Ramen winning this. Especially given that I think he's still there in Boruto now too.
Oh, you mean burrito?
Yes. He's still there in the time skip, and I'm just like, wow.
Yep, he's an old man now.
But he still makes the best ramen in town.
Absolutely.
With that being said, any final words for you guys?
Okay, for me,
Yeah.
if there is an anime that inspires you to cook, I highly suggest learning from it, because there are lessons that you can only learn through the experience of others.
Nice. I like the delivery of that. And for me, if you've listened to this episode about food and you're hungry, go satisfy that craving.
And definitely, and for me, it's and also when you look at those cooking animes, also pay attention to also the presentation, because sometimes replicating them will be nice if you try to replicate them. And obviously imitation is the best place to start with things that are real that we can all do together. That being said, don't forget to subscribe to our Facebook page at the official Taku Crew, our Instagram at Tinkoka Taku Crew, and our Twitter at Tinko Taku Crew. With that being said, see you next time on the next episode of Otaku.